Today I stand before you all to share my life journey from tiny steps to golden stripes, from microlight flying to multi-engine complex flying. I'm very fortunate to have grown up in a very positive, happy, supportive, practical family. Being a 4G's daughter, I learned the best lesson at home: to accept, adjust, adapt, and still be happy in any situation. If you have the option, choose the best. And if you have no option, just do your best. My dad was a colonel in the Indian Army with an ever-smiling face and a positive attitude. My mom, a school teacher, ensured that we had a very soothing and calm atmosphere at home. My brother, a captain with Indian Navy, when he joined the defense and he got his first salary, he contributed that for my flying training cost. My sister, who's a doctor by profession, she ensures that everybody's health is in place. My father would always encourage us. He would say that, go, take your decisions in life. They will never be wrong. He would always say, either it'll be right or left. It may take you in two different directions, but it will always be correct. Trust in yourself. He would always take away the fear from us. As young girls, as teenagers, when me and my sister wanted to go out, he would never stop us. All he would say is that 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1 is 11. That means if you're together and you have the unity, you have the strength of 11 people that you can handle. This was the shoe of my personal life. As I stepped into aviation, the initial training started when I enrolled myself in one of the training centers for the initial flying, which was about 18 kilometers away from my place. And every morning, I used to ride on a two-wheeler to reach the center, stand in the queue, wait for my turn to hop onto the aircraft. Most of the time, we used to get the chance to fly, but sometimes, because of some reasons, we may not be able to. We had to come back without a flight. The reasons could be the adverse weather, non-availability of the aircraft due to some technical problem, non-availability of instructors, or the fuel. This is a very curious stage, and the learning is at peak. The first stage, shoe stage, is a very curious stage. I remember I would always practice my procedures before and after every flight. We had a batch of about 20, and the ratio of the girls was quite less. We were only 3 of us. With the practice, entered the half phase, where I started exploring, and eventually, with discipline and hard work, I completed the 1 cycle of Shuhari. I completed my initial flying training. In fact, I was the only girl to complete the cycle, the initial training of private pilot license. Other girls gave away. The next cycle started with the admission into one of the best training academies of our country. The training was very vigorous. We had the ground school, simulator flying, and practical flying, apart from discipline. So again, the shoe started of the cycle. In the ground school learning, we had law of the air, rules and regulations of the air, navigation, going from one place to another effectively and safely, communication, effective communication, talking to the air traffic controller and other aircrafts. We also learned about the weather, how to avoid the adverse weather, the technical knowledge of the aircraft and the instruments. The second stage of learning was the simulator flying. Simulator is a replica of the aircraft or an artificial aircraft, where we can simulate any kind of conditions, situations. We can create a virtual environment. On a normal flight, we normally do not experience emergencies every day. but we have to be prepared for it. Hence, we do our procedures and revise them on the simulator. In the simulator training, we simulated different conditions. Could it be fog, gusty winds, rain, night flight, any emergency situation, any hydraulic failure, any pressurization failure, landing gear failure, practiced forced landing on a field or on water. We also underwent time-to-time progressive tests before we could go on the re-stage or the final stage of practical flying. Practical flying definitely was fun. I remember one of the days where during the night flying, practical flying, the runway lights were not working, but we didn't want to lose the days. So we actually lit up the gooseneck lamp and put them at the edge of the runway so that we could clearly identify the runway before we could land. With this, I completed one full cycle of Shuhari, where I completed my commercial flying, and I graduated from the academy. So as I was leaving, I read the board that said, "Through these portals pass some of the best pilots in the world." And I was very proud that I walked these portals successfully. Before the first cycle of Shuhari is complete, the second cycle started. With time, I became a commercial pilot, and I joined an airline, a small airline, where my task was to procure and fly a microlight. So we went to the factory. I myself, in my own presence, got the microlight constructed, transported to the place of work. The engineers were there. They ensured that everything technically is correct. And now was the time to get the aircraft up, get the microlight up into the air for the first time. I revised all my procedures, not to miss them, completed all the checks, removed the microlight from the hangar, taxied it to the runway, aligned it with the runway, lined up, focused at the end of the runway, and increased power. As the speed was increasing of the microlight, so was my heartbeat. But in no time, we were in air. After we took off, we took a left turn, flew parallel to the runway, and I looked at all the people who had come for the inauguration looking at me. All the eyes were at me, and I had butterflies in my stomach. We took a round, and we came back for a successful landing, which marked the completion of the flight test, and our microlight was certified airworthy. And luck could have it, I became the first Indian woman, to earn the microlight pilot license. With practice and discipline, flying microlight became second nature, and without realizing, I had completed another cycle of Shuhari in my life. Now was the time to move on to another cycle. Aiming to be an airline pilot, at the time of induction, I realized that I was the only girl in the batch, but I joined without a fear. My peer, they were very supportive and protective. I got the opportunity to fly the narrow-body aircrafts, where I was flying the domestic and a few neighboring countries. Narrow-body aircraft is an aeroplane with one aisle to walk and seats on either side, whereas the wide body is with two aisles and seats on either sides and in the middle. In the first stage of my SHU for this cycle, I learned different competencies like managing the workload, communicating very precisely and effectively, prioritizing task, and situational awareness. With every change of aircraft and every upgrade, the Shuhari cycle starts all over again. When I graduated from a first officer to a commander, I got an additional stripe on my shoulders, and I could feel the heaviness on my shoulders, the responsibility and trust of hundreds of passengers behind me. With hours and years of experience, I graduated to the wide-body aircraft, which is a very latest and advanced with a very high-performance aircraft. I also participated in Vande Bharat evacuation flights during the COVID-19. They were definitely challenging times. Initially, all we knew about COVID was COVID is equal to death, the fear of unknown. The moment we would step out of the house to operate the flight, we didn't know whether we'll be coming back safely or not. Aircraft is a big, sealed, air-conditioned room where most of the air is circulated inside. So even if one person had COVID, the chances of infection was much more. Even after operating the flight, we could not come back home. We had to quarantine ourselves until we were tested COVID negative. So even if we were in the same city, we could not come home and meet our family. There are ups and downs in life. There are challenges in life. But don't give up. Trust in yourself. Every step that you take, every micro step that you take, every effort that you make will definitely make the Shuhari cycle successful. To summarize, Shuhari is lifelong, unlearning, and relearning. Wishing you all a very successful Shuhari cycles in life. Thank you.